Green Gorilla Beat. All right, y'all. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Shout out to all y'all out there, man, especially out there in the chat. What's cracking with y'all, man? Want to give a shout out to Gemini Getting Knowledge, Mr. Heat, Donald Watts, Shango Zulu, Mr. Heat, Sir Abaduya, Raphael Brown, Mr. Heat, Very Little, and for those persons who came early, we here. Nice Show, the Super Trucker Griffin, Lil Rock 2517, Carlos Jones. What's good with y'all, man? How y'all doing? And also, you know, as I always do, I got to give a shout out to the members of the Green Gorilla channel, some of whom I mentioned already, but I'll mention them again in this context. Want to give a shout out to Jason Hales, The Final Watcher, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, 77 Base X, Gemini Getting Knowledge, Craig, Antonio Feria, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Mr. Lumef, Michael Ross, Nelso, Apex Prowler, Kareen Henry, Dr. Rock, Julius Ferguson, B. Hillfire, J. Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Nameless Protagonist, The Face, Rais Muaji, Mark Swift, Show Me, Black Dog, Odd Khaled, Raphael Brown, Deanne, Donald Watts, Barry Little, Ryan Jackson, HipHop.CATV, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Ominous Black, I Am Black Man, Nichita, True King 337, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Ab Media 83, Brian McMurray, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Artisan MC, Mr. Heat, Afro Analyst, Isa Abdul Zahir, Sir Anthony, MLR, Charles Rogers, Universal 178, Black Swerve 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, C Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Black Peel Ned Stark, Arthur Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Moore Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, W. Pierre 1, Roguish the Billmonger, I Care, BGS Ibmore, Marvin Battle Jr., and I can't forget my brother Force Windu, may rest in heaven, Soul Pen, Anu 219, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Kwaku 217, S. Haywood, Dragon 59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Mo Mal, William Ruffin, and Asangwa. Shout out to y'all, man. I appreciate y'all for helping to contribute towards the Green Gorilla channel and helping me to keep things going. And so right now what I'd like to do is move on to the proceedings this evening and get to work and do what I came to do. All right? So basically, I was looking at my email, and I don't always check my email. And sometimes I guess people think that I'm not responding to what it is that they're saying, and they think that I might be avoiding them, but I don't check my email that often. I usually check it weekly. But anyway, I was looking through my email, and I came across an article, and the person who sent me the article was BGS. And I looked at this article, and I was amazed by what I saw. And so I'm going to show you the article. I'm going to put it on a display, and we can look at the article together. All right? But, I mean, for crying out loud, man. The article basically is entitled, Why as a Black Woman, My Loyalty Lies with Prince Philip, Not Rapper DMX. That's the title of the article. It's written by a woman by the name of Mary Tamar. But she goes by the name of, Mary Tamar was Jean. Mary Tamar was Jean. Now, first of all, when I saw the title, the first thing I thought to myself was, why do you have to be loyal to any of these people? I mean, do you know what loyalty requires? Do you know what loyalty consists in? I mean, like, what is the definition of loyalty? What is it? And why would you have to be loyal to a royal or to an entertainer? Why? I mean, why? That's the first thing I ask. Giving or showing firm and constant support or allegiance to a person or to an institution. So this woman basically says, I'm not loyal to DMX, but I'm loyal to Prince Philip or the Duke of England. That's, what he's called in English culture or, British culture. I think there's some Brits out there. And I don't understand why there was a need to even create this dichotomy. These are people who are deceased. You can pay your respects to both persons without picking or choosing or deciding who was the better person while they were living. That doesn't even matter anymore. I get the point though, but why? What was it necessary to do to begin with? In other words, I mean, and then there's a white man who's a British royal, and then you have a black man who's an American citizen who was an entertainer who did have a troubled life. He did. His mother abandoned him when he was young. He grew up in a group home, basically foster care. This is a kid who was literally raised by the streets. But he rose through the ranks of the rap game. I think he came out somewhere around 2008, 2009. No, 99. I'm tripping. 99. 98, 99, I think is when DMX burst on the scene. Okay? I remember his first single. The first song I ever heard, Get At Me, Dog. So it's a miracle that this guy, to begin with, with the history and the background that he had, that he was able to accomplish very much at all. How many of you can say that your mothers abandoned you and left you in a group home? So you starting off in a deficit. Because typically, I mean, especially in the black community, like the only parents some of us have are our mothers. What happens when not even your mother will show you love? And you got to fend for yourself. So the man befriended canines. Those became his friends because they showed him unconditional love. But anyway, let's go into the mind of this woman and let's see what she thinks. And I'm going to break down what I think about what she thinks. Okay? And I'm going to try to make it brief. I'm not going to be here all night, but I do want to assess what it is that she has to say. So let me just go ahead and get right to it. All right? So it's going to be a little funniness in the scene until I get to where I want to go. She says, why, as a black woman, my loyalty lies with Prince Philip, not rapper DMX. So this is the woman right here, okay? That's her. She got some dreads and whatever the case may be, and there's a split between her and the two people that she mentions in the title, all right? And this is what she says. So this morning, I received a very nasty message from a woman who has followed me for years. She was telling me that she was no longer a follower of mine because I did not pay any tribute to American rapper DMX, but instead I chose to honor Prince Philip, whom she called a racist, which he was, which he definitely was, okay? He is a racist. But those people don't exist anymore, right? They're all gone. Okay. But if you say so. Anyway, I chose to honor Prince Philip, whom she called a racist, who never cared about black people, which he never did. He didn't. I mean, this is being honest, right? She said, apparently I am licking the asses of white people for fame and money. She's licking the asses of white people for fame and money. Don't act like that's not a phenomenon of black people living in predominantly white societies. Don't act like that doesn't happen. I don't know why we pretend that this doesn't occur and that people don't take this tack or this line of, being in the world related to the dominant white society. There are people who think that, there are black people who think that white culture or Western culture in general is superior, it's superlative, it's better, more virtuous than any other culture, even their own, because we have no culture. That's my guess. Or what culture we did have, we gave away. But integration, so that we could, become part of the society at large. Okay? She says, I was actually hurt by this message because this woman was one of my followers I considered a true fan. She always wrote me. She said I inspired, encouraged her, and she called me her queen. Today I woke up to a very disrespectful message from her because I didn't write a tribute in honor of DMX. Now, to be quite honest, she didn't have to write a tribute in honor of DMX. She didn't. Not at all. There was no reason for her to write an article about DMX if she doesn't like DMX's music or if she thinks DMX is a bad role model. She doesn't have to write about him. But all of this is triggered in response to one of her followers. And I guess that in responding to this follower, she has to demonstrate why Prince Philip is a better role model or an overall better human being than DMX. A deceased man, by the way, dead, can't defend himself. Anyway, she woke up to this disrespectful message. And her husband told her not to fight with her, but to shake the dust off and journey on, which is what she should have done. Listen to her husband about this. Dust yourself off, forget it. Why are you tripping off one individual on social media to begin with anyway? Because you're sure to be in disagreement with some people sometime, even people you're cool with. Even people who follow you on social media. It's okay if they disagree with you. There's nothing wrong with someone disagreeing with you. But I mean, I happen to agree with this follower to some extent, not to the extent to which, she went, but you honoring Prince Philip? That's the problem, right? So I guess, in essence, she wrote, this venerable column or a piece about Prince Philip, but she said nothing about DMX. So the fan or the follower was upset about that. Okay? So her husband said instead of replying to her, if you were that upset, in other words, he told her, leave it alone. But she was upset about it. And he said, well, don't respond to her. Just write your thoughts down in long form so that you can get through it and not, respond to her in a pejorative or ad hominem way. So she ended up writing this blog piece, right? So I guess this is a series of back and forth between her and this woman or other people online related to this issue. So, Your Highness, have you ever watched Into the Badlands? The series You and the King are very similar to Pilgrim and his wife. So that's supposed to be some sort of deprecating line given to her. A lot of followers went in on her, okay? Jean, sorry, sis, I have to ask, are you being paid to please white people? I've always supported you, my sis, but this path you're choosing, why not write a tribute to DMX too instead of writing about a racist man who didn't love black people? You really disappointed me, sis. If it's money and fame you're seeking, there are better ways than leaking white people's asses. Shame on you. So I guess that's the back and forth that she's showing. Okay, so that's it. Then she goes on to say, thing is, I have had to delete comments from black people. And then she says Zimbabweans. So apparently the woman is a native of Africa. She's a recent immigrant to the West, not a descendant of slaves in the West. Right? So she's probably, or perhaps maybe, a native-born African or second-generation African. Okay? So even Zimbabweans are telling her, why are you you know, genuflecting for this Prince Philip guy. Why? Anyway, she had to delete comments from black people, Zimbabweans especially, on her Facebook page, who have a serious problem with a black woman like me passing their condolences regarding the passing of the dude because of the color of my skin. So this is racism directed towards her by other black folks and Africans even. Africans? Anyway, she goes on to say, because of the color of my skin, somehow too many black people believe it's morally wrong for me to mourn Prince Philip. To mourn him? How many of y'all, look, how many of you are mourning some dead white dude? How many of y'all are mourning some dead white guy and writing a tribute to him to talk about his exemplary life? Huh? And the man, all you got to do is check the record. You can see a whole bunch of racist comments that the man has said. He's a xenophobic bigot, is what he is. But I digress. Anyway, it's in times like these, I believe men like Dr. Martin Luther King, then she calls on MLK. This is going to be the content of your character speech instead of the color of your skin. This is what she's going to go to. Okay? It's in times like these, I believe men like Dr. Martin Luther King and William Wilberforce risk their lives for black people to be free in vain. They must be turning in their graves because right now it seems like all their hard work was all for nothing. So because you got criticized for kissing a white man's ass, who is a racist, by the way, you feel like Martin Luther King and William Wilberforce will be turning over in their graves? How so? How so? Anyway, she says, I feel like in 400 years since the slave trade, this is a kind of new wave of racial war history has not seen. Especially during this generation, there's just way too much racial anger out there. Racial anger, huh? Mm-hmm. I blame one woman who is carrying a spirit of perdition for all this racial anger and division. Yes, Meghan Markle is very much at the center of all that is happening today when it comes to race and division. I don't know what's going. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Cause look, let me just say this. How many of y'all are from Britain? Like, what's going on with the racial situation between this Prince Harry guy and Meghan Markle? Like, what is that situation like? Because I don't pay it any attention, right? I pay it no mind, not even a little bit of mind. Okay, not even partially. I just don't get it. So anyway, and there are a group of people in Britain, more than likely, who are like, why are you tripping off this Prince Philip guy dying? And so Memnon Uzan says, me when I see black people posting RIP Prince Philip. And there's a picture of Lawrence Fishburne playing Ike Turner. In other words, I can smack you. All right, I'm trying not to curse. Anyway, it goes on to say, can we all complain? I want to know who wrote this article. Beloved Royal is gone at age 99. The Prince, the rapper, brilliant but troubled musician, dies at 50. So in other words, the media, I guess this woman is referring to, is spinning the Prince, the Duke, as, you know, somebody who died gracefully, whereas DMX is somebody to, disparage related to his troubled life. Okay. Anyway, she goes on to say black people who were posting condolence messages of Prince Philip took to black Facebook groups and were met with angry messages like below, where they were told the black groups had nothing to do with the Duke, as he is apparently burning in hell. And they were told to focus on DMX, who apparently was the true royal, who is in heaven right now. Anyway, it goes on to say, or give clips of various persons who wrote these messages. Not relevant news for this group unless he has reparations in his will. So in other words, who cares? Nia Amar, thank you. Agreed. I don't get the decision behind this. Me neither. So that's, I guess, in response to the Daily Mail and the way that it grouped them together. And look at the article, how, I don't know, man. He's beloved, but the brilliant rapper dies at 50. One is beloved, the other is troubled. That's the issue I guess they took pause with, right? Anyway, even the honorable Ghanaian president, whom I have so much respect for because my husband is from Ghana, a man who is normally loved and respected by his people, is being viciously attacked by the people of Ghana for sending his condolences to the Queen. Now, I can understand, why the Ghanaian president would send out his condolences to, the Queen for the death of Philip. I can see that because he's a government official. This is what they do, okay? But average persons, I mean, she can do what she wants. But I'm saying, like, why does what she's doing have to be done in comparison to DMX? That's my only issue. Anyway, she goes on to say, it's even shocking to my husband and I because Ghanaian people are normally very calm, collected, loving people. I consider them the cream of Africa. Yet today they cannot even stand with their president and they believe he is a sellout. And worse, just for saying rest in peace, Prince Philip. Honestly, the damage Meghan Markle has caused on this earth is beyond unforgivable. How is she, why is this woman tripping off Meghan Markle? I know why. Because Meghan Markle raised a big fuss recently about the racist character of the royal family. That's why. That's the exact reason why. So instead of actually acknowledging the fact that these people have a problem with race, the royal family in England, instead of admitting that, you hate the people who are actually telling you the racism that they're experiencing. So this is how this works. It works in the following way. The media and this popular culture will have you believe that the oppressed are actually the oppressors. That the people being subjected to racism are actually racist for responding to it. That's how this works. And now you got black people who are willing to forget all of the racism, all of the colonization. England has colonized Africa. It has colonized America. Because who is the predominant group of white people who control and run America? White Anglo-Saxon Protestants, Anglo-English, Saxons, Britons. These are the facts. So then the question is, why? Why? Would you honor these people? These people apparently do not honor you and your kind. So why honor them? But then go extra hard to the point where you can't even see the critique that these people are posing to you. And I see this, I see this here as well, in this space. But let me keep going though. Let me keep going. So anyway, Meghan Markle is the one who caused all the damage, right? What she's done is unforgivable. She has single-handedly managed to take away the decent sanity and humanity the world once took for granted and enjoyed. Meghan Markle? Now, I personally don't give a damn about Meghan Markle one way or the other either. But how can she cause that much trouble in the world related to race by merely speaking about her experiences with race from the royal family and the way they treated her because she was a little darky? And how's the baby gonna look? Now, she signed on for that role and that job, and I don't know if she expected for, things to be like America, but I mean, she learned the hard way that, look, this is a job. There's a certain level of comportment and a certain, brand of behavior that you have to adhere to if you're going to make it in that world. Okay? And then on top of it, these people are already arrogant as hell because they are nobles. You kind of agree with that thing. I mean, no, Americans don't have royals or nobles. Okay? But these people are nobles. They're royals. So they already are off-put and arrogant and ignorant as it pertains to people who are supposedly beneath them. But anyway, so it's Meghan Markle's fault, right? For pointing out racism. So anyway, she's single-handedly managed to take away the decent sanity and humanity of the world that was once taken for granted and enjoyed. So much that today a respected president in Africa cannot even send his condolences to the British Crown without being mobbed by his own people. Now, what does Meghan Markle have to do with any of this? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because she made a statement about how she was being treated by the royal family because of her race. Because they see her as a black woman. In America, we might see her as, light, bright, and almost white. But I guarantee you, they see her as a darky. They see her as a nigger. Let's just face the facts. They see her as a nigger. All right? Anyway, she goes on to say, yet Ghana is a member of the Commonwealth. Now, the question is, how did Ghana become a member of the Commonwealth? Why is Ghana the member of the Commonwealth? Because at one time, Ghana was colonized by Anglos. That's why. That's why. Anyway, now as Ghanaian president is being attacked in Ghana for saying something humane in the wake of death of a British prince, back here on British soil, British people are upset with British sports champion Lewis Hamilton because he chose to mourn the American rapper while saying absolutely nothing about the Duke passing. So now the script is being flipped because you got some guy who's, I don't even know who that guy is, man. Who is Lewis Hamilton, man? Anyway, he says he grew up listening to DMX. His words and stories got me through some difficult times, blah, blah, blah. Going too soon, RIP. God bless DMX. So he gets ripped. I guess he drives cars. I guess that's what he is, a race car driver or whatever. All right, so anyway, so white people are mad at him because he gave a shout out to DMX and not the Duke. All right, so anyway, Lewis, surely you should have made a statement about the Royals. You are a knighted man, and you have a responsibility to at least conform as a knighted British sports personality. So I don't even know what that's about, man. He's been knighted, meaning he's been made into a noble or something like that. He's been honored by the royal family. Okay? So he didn't say anything about the Duke, but he says something about DMX. So she says, I'm not a fan of Lewis Hamilton, and I truly believe he shouldn't have accepted the knighthood if he feels so much disdain towards the British royal family. That's hypocrisy. It sounds like he hates the monarchy so much. Now, how does he hate the monarchy by not saying anything at all? This is how these people think, man. Anyway, it sounds like he hates the monarchy. He's a double-minded man and ironically lacks the honor and integrity the man he is shunning, Prince Philip, had. So this race car driver who just didn't make mention of a man's death is shameful, and the man is lacking honor and integrity only because he gave a shout out to DMX, who he actually had a connection with in the real world. Somebody who resonated with him in his living, reality. Anyway, maybe he was afraid that if he sent condolences to the Queen, black people would turn on him, since he's been quite vocal about Black Lives Matter. Oh well, at least Prince Philip was always true to himself. A better man he was than Hamilton. Man, who is this Prince Philip dude? Like, somebody from Britain needs to tell me through the chat, man. Who is this guy? And why is he worthy of respect to begin with? I thought the royals in Britain really didn't do anything at all, of any note or import at all. That they were symbolic rulers of England. They're like, a vestige of an old institution, but they really don't have any power. They're just ceremonial royals, like ambassadors of some kind. They don't run England. So how is it that they can be filled with integrity and honor when all they do is just go from appearance to appearance, performing public relations? Like, what? But anyway, 1 minute he is proudly British when it suits him, and the next minute he hates the monarchy when it suits him, or when he's being a coward. So I understand the anger of the British people. So, in other words, she's siding with the white folks for this black man not giving a shout out to Prince Philip. And then she goes on, yes, as a knighted citizen, he should have sent condolences to the Queen. That's the moral obligation and the least he could have did. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, now this brings me to the black people who are angry with me for not mourning American rapper DMX. It's sad that I have this to say since the poor man is departed. But since black people want to know why I never acknowledged or paid any respects to DMX, but chose to honor the life of the Duke instead, here it is. I cannot pay respect or tribute to a serial criminal, a drug dealer, an addict, a deadbeat father to some of his seed, and a man who tortured animals. So there it is. There you go. There it is. This is why I say some people in this space think just like this. Am I right or am I wrong? Let me go back to the chat. Am I right or am I wrong? Anyway, I'm just gonna finish reading this thing, man, and keep it pushing, man. Anyway, now DMX was an addict. He was. He struggled with addiction. But so do many other Americans struggle with addiction. Rush Limbaugh has struggled with addiction. Robin Williams has struggled with addiction. Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince struggled with addiction. How many other people have struggled with addiction? White people. Marilyn Monroe struggled with addiction. How many white people? Kurt Cobain struggled with addiction. Sam Kinison struggled with addiction. Amy Winehouse struggled with addiction. How many white folks have struggled with addiction? How many? Rush Limbaugh struggled with addiction. The man was hooked on Oxycontin and was buying and selling Oxycontin illegally. But because his uncle was a judge in the 8th District of Missouri and had federal connections, Rush didn't have to do any time. If that would have been an average individual or average citizens, Rush would have went to jail. Yeah, the one who's on the right with the big mouth, with all the conservative talking points, who uses racist, undertones in his messaging. Yeah, that Rush. So anyway, we could be critical of DMX. I'm not going to say that like DMX lived the perfect life. But where was all the smoke for all these other white boys who died? You hear white people coming out saying, well, I can't respect him. I can't pay any homage to him. I can't honor him because he did X, Y, and Z. They don't do that to each other. Or do they do that to each other? Show me the instances in which, like, one of their stars or celebrities dies, and the first thing they do is they come out and they say, well, I don't like the way he lived his life. I can't honor him in death. How many of them do that? I don't recall that being done to Sam Kinison. I don't recall it being done to Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, none of them. I don't recall them, being called junkies in death. I don't recall them being called criminals in death, even though the use of drugs is criminal. I don't recall them being referred to that way. But maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe I didn't see the newspaper articles, the blog pieces that came out speaking about how they not need to be honored, how they don't need to be honored, or how they don't need to be venerated in death. You show me those articles, I'll change my mind. But I just don't remember a whole bunch of blog pieces and press disrespecting Amy Winehouse or Kurt Cobain or Michael Jackson or Prince. See, there's certain celebrities that are black that you don't get to talk about, but then there are other people who you get to talk about disparagingly, and I think it's a class issue. That's what I perceive it to be. Because it's cool to talk about DMX and how he didn't live his life the right way, but nobody has that smoke for Prince or Michael Jackson. Where's that smoke for Prince or Michael Jackson? Because they're from a different class, right? Now, I'm not disrespecting Prince or Michael Jackson or DMX. I'm just saying certain people get smoke and certain people don't get smoke. Certain people get a pass and they get venerated and honored, even though, the troubled and tragic parts of their lives are discussed. But other people we go ham on. And as far as I'm concerned, all of this is about respectability politics. I don't know if you know what the respectability politics is, but it's the politics of basically demonstrating that your values coincide with that of the dominant culture in contradistinction to the other darkies. The subcultural darkies or the other uncivilized and uncultured people. It's genuflecting in front of white folks is what it's doing. Are your knees near your neck bending over? Are we supposed to forget what these people have done historically and now just adopt their value system all the way through and through? And to honor and venerate them even when they make offhand and xenophobic and bigoted statements, letting you know where they really are mentally. Because they slip. And from time to time, they demonstrate they don't even care. I can't see who's donating, but peace out, shout out. But anyway, so we already know that this boy, with this man, DMX, he died at 50 from a heart attack, probably brought about through drugs. And we know that his mother left him to fend for himself when he was a mere, not a toddler, but a young boy, a young tyke. He had to fend for himself. We know that he was introduced to drugs from somebody who he used to rap with, who he looked up to, who he didn't know slipped crack cocaine into a blunt or a spliff or whatever the case may be. Now you can say, well, he shouldn't have been smoking weed anyway. Like, come on, man. He shouldn't have been smoking weed. Maybe he shouldn't have been. But slipping crack into somebody's smoke, man, that's fucked up, man. And I used to sell dope, man. I did. But I never would, in my life, I would never sell dope to somebody who wasn't already using dope. Never would I start off a dope fiend. Never. That's some fucked up shit to do to an individual, man. To introduce them to a substance and they don't even know what they're imbibing. The best friends the man has were dogs. The only creatures that would show him unconditional love. And he helped put people on. Not saying his life was perfect, but do you have to drag the man through the mud so that you can show that you have allegiance to this white man who really doesn't give a damn about you at all? Or people like you who think you have a substandard culture, that you're inferior biologically, and then psychologically you don't quite muster up to him or the people like him in his culture. I mean, the mental hoops and gymnastics that you have to jump through in order to disparage your own, but we're not our own. We're just individuals, right? We're not part of the same stock. We're not part of the same tribe. We're not black together. It's every man for his damn self, trying to demonstrate his fitness against others, especially when it comes to black folks. Man, this is done routinely. I'm not like them. Well, hopefully you don't have to go through what a lot of them have to go through. Maybe you're fortunate for having a mother who actually cared for you and made sure that you graduated from high school, because his didn't. Maybe you're fortunate because you didn't have to grow up in a group home, because he did. And he still made something out of himself, even though he squandered some of his opportunities and got addicted to narcotics. You still don't have to disparage the man. Is all I'm saying. Now, I grew up listening to a different kind of hip hop, but DMX was popping in 98, 99. He was popping. But the only thing that changed my mind about DMX is when I saw a Smack DVD video, and there was, I think, a video where he was next to Shy XL, and he said he robbed the niggas that he hang with. And I was like, oh, no, I can't get with that, man. You can't rob people. First of all, I don't rob. I've never robbed anyone. But you rob the guys you hang with? That made me change my opinion about DMX myself. Okay? However, I'm not going to sit here and berate this man and drag his name through the mud in order to virtue signal and grandstand. Because you don't know the shit that a lot of people are going through and what they're contending with psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. You don't know. So a lot of people sit there and they point fingers and like to hurl and they like to throw stones instead of showing empathy and having some sort of compassion for other people when they're going through this arduous task called life. Because it ain't easy. But there are a lot of people who would like to issue judgment like they sitting on the throne of God, ready to reserve people to either heaven or hell. My suggestion to these people is, well, shit, clean your own shit up first. Make sure you got your own house in order before you start trying to get everybody else's house in order and issuing all kinds of judgments and proclamations about their character. That's what I would say. Because a lot of you, you ain't got your shit together for real. Spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, financially. Get your shit in order. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, black people say DMX turned into the criminal he was and became a deadbeat father to some of his children because he had a troubled childhood, which he did as an underprivileged black statistic child and never had a father figure in his life. Well, Prince Philip actually had a more troubled childhood than that of DMX. Man, I don't even know if I can finish this now. So you mean a person who's an English royal, a white man, had more trouble than DMX growing up on the streets of New York? Huh? He didn't have any white privilege during his child. He had royal privilege. He is a part of privilege by virtue of the fact that he's a fucking British noble. That is the embodiment, the epitome of what privilege actually is. Meaning they get the seat first. They get to the front of the line. You have to bend over and courtesy them people, man. That is the embodiment of what privilege entails. Prince Philip actually had a more troubled childhood than that of DMX, and he didn't have any white privilege during his childhood. But he grew up to be the very opposite. I would like to know what troubles he had. Picking out what, suit he was going to wear, what yacht he's going to get on, which Rolls Royce they're going to roll to, the opera in, which brand of caviar they're going to consume. Like what? I mean, I'm pretty sure that being a royal can be stressful. But I mean, like these people aren't actually ruling. They're just ceremonial. All it is etiquette and protocol. And some of them use dope too. Don't get it twisted. But I digress. Both DMX and Prince Philip had the same troubled start. Both were, without a doubt, great minds, yet one became a criminal and a deadbeat father, and the other became a loving husband and father and dedicated his life to service. So who then deserves the honor of my pen? Should I honor people based on color of their skin or their character? So here we go. As for DMX's music, great it may have been to many black folk, but it never inspired me. I don't know a single song of his, so I have nothing to pay tribute to. As a mother of 3 black boys, my prayers that I will never raise any of my boys for them to turn out to be a man like DMX. Okay, fine. You don't want them to be rappers saddled by drug addiction. And that's worthy. I understandable. I get that. You want to save your boys. But at least she's married and has a husband, okay? At least I can say that, all right? So DMX is no role model to my sons. I wouldn't argue that DMX is a role model either. He's just a damn entertainer, is what he is. He's not a role model to me or my children either. Anyway, as a mother of 3 black British boys, I would rather my boys learn life lessons through the life of the Duke. My oldest son already understands the art of serving his country. By the age of 9, he was featured in the local paper in Milton Keynes and made history by designing a flag for his then borough, Eaglestone. Today, my son has a landmark of the work in his hands and the dedication to his country on British soil. Last Sabbath, as I taught my children about the life of Prince Philip, like last year, you were teaching your kids about the life Like, do y'all worship these people over there? I mean, like, do you honestly worship like the royal family over there and pretend that, one day you could be like them and have character and nobility and honor and, virtue like them? Is that what it is? So anyway, what he learned from the life of the Duke was that he had to work hard in school, like how Prince worked hard and became a head boy. And he said if he works hard, God will do the rest. So he was the head boy because he was the smartest, or was he the head boy because he was a royal? Well, I guess we'll never know. But anyway, how can my son learn anything about the life of DMX? Should I teach my boys to be like DMX, that it's okay to do drugs, go around the country fathering children you don't look after, and spend your life in and out of jail, then become a great artist, and somehow that makes you a hero? And look, I understand that. I get that. Because DMX did have responsibilities to his children. He did. He had responsibilities if he was a husband, as a husband. But, nowadays, women don't feel like they have responsibility to husbands. They'll divorce your ass real quick and jump like a pogo stick on the next man's. You know what I'm talking about. Just is what it is. And spend your life in and out of jail. And look, DMX made a lot of stupid mistakes. He did a lot of things that he did not have to do, given the fact that he was in a position to where he didn't have to do that. Like impersonating an officer and stuff like that. He didn't have to do that. So I get it. I do understand this part of her narrative, though. I get it. I would use DMX as a cautionary tale, or I wouldn't mention him at all. But the woman doesn't even know DMX, doesn't even listen to any of his music. All she does is have a tangential connection to DMX through popular culture in the press. She's not inspired by his music, never danced to his music, none of that. So who knows? But, all I know is English people colonized your people. That's what I do know. Meaning they came into your land and did with it what they wanted. They made use of your resources, your human capital, and your geographical landmass as they saw fit. And what? Made you part of the Commonwealth later on, which really to me is, nothing but the vestiges, the residuals of colonization. They left their stamp on your culture. They trained you up good, and now you love it. But what was Zimbabwe and Ghana like before European colonization? Were they backward, uncivilized, savages, filing their teeth, bones in their noses, plates in their lips? Oogity boogity? That's how they were before European colonization? That's what I would ask her, but I can't ask her because I don't have her or know her to ask the question. All right. So anyway, it's about how they treat their wives and children, how they serve their communities, which make them true heroes. And I do understand that. I get this part, though. I do get that. Okay? I do get that. So anyway, here she is showing her son, which is, impressive. I cannot deny, that her son is engaged in civic responsibility. I mean, that's a good thing. But be cautious, though. Be aware, though, because, right around the corner, there's always lurking your exposure to and your immersion in a nigger moment. How many of you have had a nigger moment where you think, oh, everything is good, and then you get reminded you're not like us? It could be a joke that said that a person kind of like puts their guard down and they say the N word. Or it could be on a construction site where you see the N word written in spray paint by one of the people that you work with, but you don't know exactly who it is. Or maybe it could be, you know, a racist joke on Facebook by somebody who's in your union, at the local, in your geographical area. Or maybe it could be you walking around in the store and then you get followed and scrutinized real closely. And then you get told you stole something when you know damn well you didn't steal anything. Or it could be just overt and happen to, you walk down the street and somebody says, get out of my way, nigga. Yeah, eventually you're going to get one of them. If you live life as a black individual in a predominantly white society, you will have a nigger moment sooner or later. And if you never had the misfortune to have one, you're blessed. Or maybe you're just out of tune and out of touch with reality such that you can't even sense that it exists. Meaning racism. It's all gone now. It's a thing of the past. It doesn't exist anymore. I told you, I was called a nigger a couple of days ago online. Literally. Fucking nigger. Literally. But how do you respond to being called a nigger online? You don't. Because you'll never be into contact with that individual. You'll never meet them, so what's the use of responding? So anyway, her son is proudly British. And look, no offense to her son, man. I'm glad she's raising her boys the right way. That's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. Making them be responsible. But I would caution, well, I don't know, British society might be different than American society. Or maybe she is, a member of the upper classes in British culture and society. But I'm pretty sure there's lower, class British society as well. Anyway, she says it was a very emotional moment for me, and her husband captured the event and so on and so forth as they engaged in that, whole ceremony, okay? Anyway, she says, I've always served my country, even when no one was looking. Even through my children, the lessons that I teach them. As black people accuse me of honoring the dupe so that I will get fame and money, I am not seeking validation from the monarchy. Now, who is this woman, man? She acts like she's like super huge. Like, how do you get fame and money in British society for kissing the ass of royals? Like, I don't know. Maybe this woman is a celebrity of some kind, or like an influencer or a content creator that has a lot of followers. And I don't know. Anyway, she says, I just wrote the tribute with tears in my ears, knowing that even the queen may never see it or read it. What? She wrote, this woman has this much of a love affair with this dead ass white dude who has historical connections to slavery, colonization, and the exploitation and the annexation of African land. You're in love with this guy that much? With tears in your eyes? Man, look, I can't read any more of this, man. I can't. I cannot. I'm done with it. I'm done with that. I can't. I cannot. I can't do that no more. I can't. So my question is this. No disrespect to oh, Mac Miller. I see one dude says, I'm looking at the comment section now, and look, I understand it's difficult to live in a culture like this. I get it. And I understand it. It's difficult. It's hard. And we want to prove our worth and our value. We want to demonstrate that we have innate dignity. And we should strive to be respected. We deserve respect. We're worthy of respect. Do some of us do things that are unworthy of respect? Do some of us do things that are problematic in such a way that we need to be punished for them or shamed for them? Yes. Yes. I've said this. But see, this is where, as a scholar, I would come in and say, look, what is your approach to punishment? Because there's different ways of looking at punishment. And there's different ways of looking at failure within the context of a culture. There's ways of looking at criminality. There are 5 common approaches to punishment. I don't know, but look, you can incapacitate someone, meaning take them out of the game. Don't have them interact with other people in the culture at large. Put them behind bars so that they can't harm anyone else. That's incapacitation. Make sure they can't hurt anybody else or commit any more offenses. There's retribution, meaning that the individual has to be paid a harm for the harm that they've done. It's predicated upon the idea of lex talionis, or retaliation. That's what tort law is about. Tort is the root of the word torture, to bend, right? So, in other words, you're bending back that which has been bent out of shape. So, incapacitation, retribution, rehabilitation, then there's vengeance and deterrence. Those are the 5 common approaches to punishment. That's all. Look, I know this. I've taught this. This is what sociologists say, criminologists say. 5 approaches. Ethicists, this is what it is. The question is, which tack do you take? Do you want to have a retributive, incapacitation-based approach towards punishment? Or do you want people to be restored and rehabilitated? Or are you willing to throw other black people under the bus who are less fortunate than yourself in order for you to what? Virtue signal and grandstand so you can set yourself apart from people less fortunate than yourself or people who've made mistakes. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I said it before. If you're perfect, if you're that damn perfect, why don't you just reach and ascend to the heavens like Enoch did? Why not just reach apotheosis now? You've attained the right to it. If you're perfect in that way, to the point where you can lay judgment down on other individuals, especially individuals of your own race, and you know the kind of difficulties that it takes to deal with living in this kind of culture. But you know what? I think that maybe psychologically, this is their escape mechanism. It's okay, I don't have to contend with the reality of race, so I'll just ignore that it exists at all. It's a compartmentalization technique. Maybe it's a coping mechanism to deal with the absurdity of life in these conditions. Maybe it's a way to deal with the insanity that you're exposed to. Because think about it. How absurd is it? We're human beings. All of us are human beings, man. We only get one life on this rock. And some of us are not born in fortunate circumstances. Some of us are not born in an environment of love and development. Her boys are. And that's a good thing for those boys. But DMX was not. He wasn't. He wasn't born in an environment of love. He was involved in a life of, I guess by his mother, narcissism, self-aggrandizement, and absolute selfishness. Because you brought a child into this world and you didn't see fit to ensure that the conditions in which he was born were secured and established to where you can nurture his life. And he still made good to some extent and he was allowed to develop some of his talents, even though he got saddled with addiction. But I'm just saying, have some of that same animus for these other people that do the same things, because they're also addicts. You don't hear white folks at those junkies. They have compassion for their own, especially now that you got this prescription drug addiction, the opioid crisis. That's what they call it, the opioid crisis. Where's all the jails and the sentences and the mandatory trigger, punishment? Where is that at? Now it's time to rethink the system. Come up with different models of, addiction and, curing or solving the problem. Look, nobody's perfect, man. But do you have to bend over backwards to honor and to show all this deference to white folks who, man, underneath it all, man, some of these people are wicked to the core. I ain't saying all white people are, but some of them are. And it just so happens that his family line is a line of people who've exploited, manipulated, and committed acts of violence against people of African descent. It's the truth, man. So at any rate, man, if you got any questions you want to ask, you can ask the questions. Look, living in this society is difficult. I know it. But you ain't got to act like Clayton Bigsby on the Chappelle Show in order to prove that you're better than somebody else, or that, you're one of the ones who deserve to be treated properly. Because some of the best of us have been treated like shit. Oprah got stiffed. She got big money. She went to Sweden and tried to buy some purse. The woman working at the cash register said, no, you can't afford it. You cannot buy this. No, I'm not going to show it to you. That's a nigger moment. She's one of the good ones. Henry Louis Gates, Harvard professor, trying to get into his own home. Police arrested him. Next thing you know, they got a beer summit. Nigger moment. You can dress a certain way, talk a certain way, have a political affiliation a certain way, be educated in a certain way, but at the end of the day, all they see, if that's all they want to see, is that you're a nigger. Now, I'm not saying all white people feel this way or think this way. That's why tomorrow I'm going to have a discussion about another philosopher who's black by the name of Charles Mills. He wrote a book which is a classic in philosophical literature, especially the Africana tradition. It's called The Racial Contract. I'm going over that with you tomorrow. Charles Mills, The Racial Contract. I will be going through the outline of that text tomorrow. You don't have to be like Steven from Django. You ain't got to be Sergeant Waters from the Soldier Story. You don't have to be. It ain't going to get you closer to being accepted. I know it's hard out here. I get it. I understand it. And yes, we need to have a system of punishment for black folks who do things that are morally and legally irresponsible or against the law. We know this. We're never making we're never making the assumption or putting forth the notion that people who commit crimes, just everybody should go free. It should just be a free for all. We never said that. I've never said that. But lastly, all I'm going to leave you with is this. And I want you to think about it. A lot of us think that, especially if we're accomplished, we got a little piece of job. Even though we haven't done anything notable, we got a little pension, a little 401k, a little something, little credit score or whatever, a little investments in stocks and bonds or mutual funds or whatever the case may be. You did a little things right, and then you start feeling yourself to the point where you feel like you have nothing to give back. You feel like you don't have any uplift to give at all. All you feel like you have to give is disdain and contempt from people who are beneath you, like you really are up at the top of the food chain. You ain't even near the top of the food chain. I got partners that's millionaires, like literally. And they don't even talk the way some of us talk. Disdainful, disrespectful. Morosely, derisively. I know motherfuckers in the army, I'm talking about the military, who have basically been captains of naval submarines and shit. Real talk. I don't call him captain, or he's an admiral now, or a retired admiral. But the whole point is, went to Annapolis. Then you don't even talk like that. It's the people closest to the ground that have this issue or this problem. Because if you was at the top of the food chain, you really don't have time for that kind of conversation for real. I can't say that though. That's an assumption. I can't really back up with empirical facts. But all I do know is this: at the top of the food chain for real, or the people who make this mug go round, the people with the big money, the CEOs who pay themselves handsomely, the people who bang the gavel, who are judging and assessing us with real world consequences. It's one thing to judge and have disdain for a group of people, but they're banging the gavel for real. You ain't banging no gavels. You ain't writing no laws. You're not making no policies. And you really ain't making no money. So the only way you can feel important is by disparaging others as you live your mundane, average, middle class, lower middle class black life. That's what this is about. Because you ain't balling out of control. You can't do what you want to do. You can't go where you want to go at the drop of a dime. You ain't got that much juice for real. Let's be honest. I'm just keeping it 100 now. I didn't go into the military, but if I would have went into the military, I'd have went right in as an officer. After I took the ASVAB and I already had a college degree, I would have been an officer off the rip. But anyway, man, I don't want to beat you up on the ears, forever, but I do want to leave you with this, man. It's a story. And look, I don't want to, start getting religious or anything like that, but it's a story. The story of Moses and the Egyptian. Now, you know the story of Moses, how Moses was found in the Nile and the Pharaoh's wife or, a sister or something found Moses in the water and raised him as an Egyptian would be raised. So he had access. Like he was part of the nobility to some extent of the high court of Egypt. So the story says. So the story goes. One day, Moses went to go look at the people from whom, his stock came. He went to go look at his people, the Jews. Went to go check them out as they were performing labor and tasks in Egypt. And he saw an Egyptian beat a Jew to death. He saw a Jew beat him to death. So what did Moses do? Then, later on, Moses saw two Jews fighting each other. And he told them, he said, what are you fighting each other for? And they turned around and told him, you're not the boss of me. You can't tell us what to do. Didn't you kill the Egyptian? So this is how people get treated who try to bring black folks together. They get treated like Moses, who will fight and kill on their behalf, but they'll tell you to shut up. Don't tell us what to do. Ain't you the one who fucked over one of these white boys? We'll rat your ass out. At that point, Moses left Pharaoh's land and eventually became the leader of the Israelites and led his people out of that land with the help of God. I mean, so the story goes, so the narrative goes. Be like Moses. I ain't saying go out and kill people, but be vigilant. Stand and fight, man. Understand what has occurred historically and the circumstances in which you live. I ain't saying you got to hate anybody. I don't hate white folk. I got some good white friends that I'm cool with. But I tell them the truth. I'm not going to bite my tongue and play games and genuflect and bend over and ha 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 ha. Oh, hey, John, how are you today? No, I'm not about to play that game, man. I don't move like that. I'm straight up and down 100% who I am all day, every day. Profane the whole nine. Now, of course, there are times when I pull back and I don't use, pejorative terminology because I have to express myself in the domain in which I'm at. But I'm not going to change my whole tone. I'm not going to start to comport in a different way. Hey, John, how are you, buddy? I'm not about to start doing that, man. I'm not going to make myself shrink in front of anyone. I'm not in the practice of doing that. I'm not going to be toady and obsequious to any group of people for any reason. So anyway, man, I'll holler at y'all later, man. See you tomorrow, man. Charles Mills, The Racial Contract, man. It'll be more academic than this. Shout out to BGS for showing me the article, man. It kind of, it got me a little upset. You know what I'm saying? But man, this woman is, what do they call it, man? Stockholm syndrome, man. A lot of us, man, got some psychological issues to work through, man. We suffer from post-traumatic slave syndrome. I'm out of here, man. I'll holler at y'all, bro. Peace.